In Miami, where neon bleeds into rain-soaked streets and danger wears Armani suits, one mistake can change everything. Picture this: a thunderstorm raging over Ocean Drive, palm trees bending in the wind, the Atlantic roaring like it wants to swallow the city whole. A young black woman, soaked to the bone, psychology textbooks clutched to her chest, late-night shift at the hospital behind her, sprints through the downpour. Martha Jackson, 25 years old, exhausted, just trying to get home to her dying grandmother in Little Haiti. She sees it, a black Mercedes, sleek and waiting, headlights cutting through the rain like knives. She doesn't think. She just runs. The door swings open. Leather seats. Climate control. Safety from the storm. She collapses inside, gasping, water pooling at her feet. Thank God, she breathes. Worst night ever. But the driver doesn't move. She looks up and her heart stops. This isn't her Uber driver. This man is wrong in every way that matters. Sharp cheekbones that could cut glass. Eyes like black ice, calculating, dangerous. A three-piece suit that costs more than her semester tuition. Hands resting on the steering wheel, steady, controlled, the hands of someone who's done terrible things and slept just fine afterward. Wrong car, he says. His voice is smooth, accented, Korean, every syllable measured like a threat wrapped in silk. She should run. Every instinct screams it. But something in his gaze holds her frozen. Not fear exactly, but recognition. Like he sees straight through her exhaustion to the fighter underneath, the woman who works 2 jobs and studies until 3 a.m. and refuses to break no matter how hard life pushes. I know, Martha whispers. But she doesn't move. And neither does he. What she doesn't know, what she can't know yet, is that this man is Ji-hoon Kang, one of the most dangerous players in Miami's underworld. Korean Mafia. Smuggling operations running through the port of Miami. Underground gambling empires. Blood on his hands and ice in his veins. A man who's built an empire on fear and violence, who hasn't felt anything real in years. Until tonight. Until a rain-soaked student with fire in her eyes stumbled into his car and cracked something open inside him he thought was dead forever. The rain hammers the roof. Thunder shakes the chassis. And in that suspended moment, 2 worlds collide. Privilege and struggle, violence and hope, darkness and light. You should tell her to get out. Send her back into the storm where she belongs, far away from the blood and bullets that follow him like shadows. Instead, he shifts the Mercedes into gear. You're soaked, Ji-hoon says quietly. And you look hungry. I know a place. Red flags everywhere. Every warning bell ringing. But Martha's tired. God, she's so tired. And there's something in his eyes that isn't quite as cold as it should be. Something lonely. Something human. Okay, she hears herself say. And just like that, the course of 2 lives changes forever. Hey everyone. Before we dive into this emotional journey, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And be honest, what would you do if you accidentally got into a mafia boss's car? Run. Stay. Call the cops? Let me know below. And if you love intense romance and redemption stories, smash that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. Now let's get into it. In the sticky heat of a Miami summer night, 25-year-old Martha Jackson hurried along Ocean Drive, rain pelting her face as thunder rolled over the Atlantic. The storm had come out of nowhere. Typical Miami weather, beautiful one moment, apocalyptic the next. Martha's scrubs were plastered to her skin, her natural hair was soaked through the protective scarf she'd wrapped it in, and her canvas bag of psychology textbooks was getting heavier by the second. She'd just finished a 12-hour shift as a nursing assistant at Jackson Memorial, and all she wanted was to get home to her grandmother's small house in Little Haiti, make some tea, maybe study for an hour before collapsing into bed. Her phone buzzed. The Uber app showed her ride 2 minutes away, a black Mercedes. Fancy for an Uber, but she wasn't complaining. Her feet were killing her. She stood under the awning of an Art Deco hotel, watching the rain create rivers in the streets. South Beach at midnight was a different world, neon reflecting in puddles, the bass from nightclubs making the sidewalk vibrate, beautiful people in beautiful clothes ducking between bars and restaurants like the rain was personally offending them. Martha didn't belong here. She belonged in lecture halls and hospital rooms and her grandmother's kitchen, where the smell of her Haitian cooking still clung to the curtains even though Grandma Alice was too sick to cook anymore. Headlights cut through the rain. A black Mercedes, gleaming even in the downpour, pulled up to the curb exactly where the app said it would be. Martha didn't hesitate. She yanked open the back door and threw herself inside, gasping with relief as climate-controlled air hit her face. Oh my God, she breathed, pulling the door shut behind her. Thank you for waiting. This rain is insane. She was busy wringing out her scarf, water dripping onto the pristine floor mats, when she registered the silence. Most Uber drivers had music playing, made small talk, asked about her day. This driver said nothing. Martha looked up, and the words died in her throat. The man behind the wheel was not her Uber driver. He was young, maybe early 30s, with the kind of face that fashion photographers probably fought over. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, dark eyes that reflected the city lights like chips of obsidian. His black hair was styled with precision, and he wore a charcoal three-piece suit that probably cost more than Martha's entire wardrobe. His hands rested on the steering wheel with unnatural stillness, and he was watching her in the rearview mirror with an expression she couldn't read. Not angry, not annoyed, just assessing. Wrong car, he said. His voice was low, smooth, with a Korean accent that turned the English words musical. Martha's heart kicked into overdrive. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I thought. She grabbed for the door handle. My Uber app said. Wait. She froze. It wasn't a command exactly. More like a request that carried weight she didn't understand. The rain pounded harder. Through the tinted windows, she could see Ocean Drive emptying out as the storm intensified. No taxis. No other cars. Just sheets of water falling from the sky like the world was ending. The man, because he was definitely a man, not a boy, not with those eyes, tilted his head slightly. You're soaked. Where are you trying to go? Little Haiti, Martha said automatically. Then she cursed herself. Why was she telling a stranger where she lived? But something in his expression shifted. Long way. In this storm. He glanced at the digital clock on the dashboard. After midnight. Have you eaten? The question was so unexpected that Martha answered honestly. Not since lunch. She saw something flicker across his face. Disapproval? Concern? It was gone before she could identify it. I know a place, he said. Open late. Good food. We can wait out the worst of the rain, and I'll make sure you get home safely. Every alarm bell in Martha's head was ringing. Strange man. Expensive car. Offering food and a ride. This was how people ended up on true crime podcasts. But her psychology training kicked in, analyzing. His body language wasn't predatory. His tone was calm, almost gentle. And there was something in his eyes, a loneliness that resonated with her own bone-deep exhaustion. Also, she was starving. And soaked. And the idea of waiting in the rain for another Uber made her want to cry. Okay, she heard herself say. But I'm buying my own food. And I need to text my friend your license plate number. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Smart. He pulled away from the curb with the smooth precision of someone who drove like he did everything else, with complete control. Martha quickly typed the plate number and a message to her roommate Keisha. Got in wrong car, long story, guy offering food to wait out rain. If I'm not home in 2 hours, call cops. Plate, KJH 2495. Her phone buzzed immediately. Girl, what? Are you insane? Probably, Martha typed back. But I'm documenting everything. Stay on, find my friends. She looked up to find the driver watching her in the mirror again. Your friend thinks you're making a mistake, he said. It wasn't a question. She's probably right, Martha admitted. This time he definitely smiled. Small, brief, but real. Probably. They drove in silence through the Miami streets. The storm had cleared out most of the traffic, and the city looked different at this hour, still vibrant but edged with danger, like a beautiful woman with a knife in her purse. They passed Little Havana, where old men still sat in cafes despite the rain, smoking cigars and playing dominoes. Art galleries with graffiti-covered walls. The neon pulse of downtown giving way to quieter neighborhoods. Martha studied him in the reflection. Everything about him screamed money and power. The car, the suit, the watch on his wrist that probably cost more than her student loans. But there was something else. A tension in his shoulders. Shadows under his eyes. The way he drove like he was always calculating escape routes. What's your name? She asked suddenly. His eyes met hers in the mirror. For a long moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Ji-hoon, he said finally. Kang Ji-hoon. Martha Jackson. She paused. Thank you for not kicking me out into the rain. You looked like you were having a bad night. 12-hour shift at the hospital. Studying for midterms. Grandmother's sick. Rain. She ticked them off on her fingers. Yeah, it's been a day. Psychology student? He guessed, nodding at her soggy textbooks. How did you know? The books. And he hesitated. The way you looked at me. Like you were analyzing. Martha felt her cheeks heat. Occupational hazard. Sorry. Don't apologize. It's a useful skill. He pulled into a small parking lot behind a modest building with Korean characters on the sign. Here. The restaurant was tiny, tucked away where tourists would never find it. Through the windows, Martha could see maybe 6 tables, all empty except one where an elderly Korean couple sat sharing soup. The smell that hit her when Ji-hoon opened her door, savory, rich, complex, made her stomach growl audibly. Come, he said, producing an umbrella from seemingly nowhere and holding it over her. Inside, an older Korean woman behind the counter looked up and her eyes went wide. She said something rapid in Korean, and Ji-hoon responded in the same language. The woman bowed, actually bowed, and gestured to a table in the back corner. Martha's alarm bells rang again. Why was this woman bowing? Ji-hoon pulled out her chair, waited until she was seated, then folded himself into the seat across from her with the grace of a predator. This close, she could see details she'd missed. A thin scar along his jaw, the expensive cut of his suit doing nothing to hide the lean muscle underneath, the way his eyes never stopped moving, cataloging exits and potential threats. Order whatever you want, he said, handing her a menu. It's all good. I said I was paying for myself. And I'm saying you're my guest. His tone left no room for argument. Consider it an apology for the confusion with the car. The food arrived faster than should have been possible. Banchan dishes covering the table, followed by steaming bowls of kimchi jjigae and perfectly grilled galbi. Martha tried to eat slowly, maintain some dignity, but she was too hungry and it was too delicious. Ji-hoon watched her with something that might have been amusement. When did you eat last? I told you. Lunch. What did you have? Granola bar from the vending machine. His expression darkened. That's not lunch. It's what I could afford today. Student loans are. She shrugged. It's fine. I'm used to it. Something shifted in his eyes. You work at the hospital and go to school? And take care of my grandmother. She raised me after my parents died. Now she has stage 4 lung cancer and I'm all she's got. Martha didn't know why she was telling him this. Maybe because he was a stranger. Maybe because she was tired of holding it all in. Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. That's a heavy burden for one person. We all carry something, Martha said, meeting his eyes. What do you carry, Kang Ji-hoon? The question hung between them like smoke. The rain drummed against the windows. The elderly couple paid and left, and suddenly they were alone except for the owner in the kitchen. Ghosts, Ji-hoon said finally. Choices I can't undo. A life I didn't choose but can't escape. Everyone can escape, Martha said softly. They just have to want it badly enough. His laugh was bitter. You think it's that simple? I think nothing worth doing is simple. But that doesn't make it impossible. He stared at her like she'd said something in a foreign language. Like he was trying to translate not just the words but the entire concept behind them. You don't know anything about me, he said. No, Martha agreed. But I know what I see. Someone who's tired. Someone who's lonely. Someone who stopped a stranger from drowning in the rain and bought her dinner without expecting anything in return. She paused. That tells me something. The silence stretched. Then Ji-hoon reached into his jacket. Martha tensed, and pulled out a business card. Simple. Black with silver lettering. Just a name and a phone number. If you ever need anything, he said, sliding it across the table. Call. Why would I need anything from you? Miami's a dangerous city. You work late shifts. Walk alone. Sometimes it helps to have someone who can. He searched for the word. Help. I don't even know what you do. I know. And it's better that way. He stood, pulling out his wallet. I'll drive you home now. The rain stopped. She wanted to argue. Wanted to demand answers to the 100 questions suddenly flooding her mind. But she was exhausted, and her grandmother would be worried, and there was something in Ji-hoon's eyes that told her pushing right now would get her nowhere. The drive to Little Haiti was quiet. Martha directed him through narrow streets to her grandmother's small house. Paint-peeling, chain-link fence, so different from the gleaming towers of South Beach it might as well have been another planet. Ji-hoon pulled up to the curb and put the car in park. Thank you, Martha said. For dinner. And the ride. And not being a serial killer. That almost smile again. The night's still young. Dark humor. I like it. She opened the door then paused. Ji-hoon? Whatever you're carrying. I hope you find a way to put it down someday. She was halfway to her front door when she heard his voice, barely audible over the idling engine. Maybe I just did. Martha turned, but he was already pulling away, red taillights disappearing into the Miami night like he'd never been there at all. Inside, her grandmother was asleep in her recliner, oxygen tube in her nose, game show reruns playing on low volume. Martha covered her with a blanket, kissed her forehead, and retreated to her small bedroom. The business card sat on her desk where she dropped it. Black, silver. A phone number that felt like a door to somewhere dangerous. Martha picked it up, meaning to throw it away. Instead, she tucked it into her wallet. Just in case. 3 days passed before Martha texted him. She told herself she wouldn't. Told herself that whatever Ji-hoon Kang was, and she had a pretty good idea it wasn't anything legal, getting involved was a spectacularly bad idea. She had enough problems. Enough complications. But she kept thinking about him. The way he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. The loneliness in his eyes that mirrored her own. The gentleness in his hands when he'd held the umbrella over her, like she was something precious. It was stupid. Dangerous. Completely out of character for sensible, responsible Martha Jackson. She texted him anyway. This is Martha. From the wrong car. Just wanted to say thanks again for dinner. His response came within minutes like he'd been waiting. You're welcome. How is your grandmother? Same. Bad days and worse days. But we manage. You shouldn't have to manage alone. Martha stared at her phone. 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Would you like to have coffee? No rain this time. I promise. She should say no. Every rational bone in her body screamed it. When? She typed instead. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. I'll send you an address. The cafe was in Coconut Grove, tucked between an art gallery and a bookstore, the kind of place that served $7 lattes and had bookshelves along the walls. Martha arrived 10 minutes early, nerves jangling, wearing her nicest jeans and a yellow blouse that Keisha said brought out the warm tones in her dark skin. You're insane, Keisha had said that morning. Meeting up with a strange man who you literally met by accident? Who bought you dinner and gave you his number like some kind of romance novel billionaire. It's just coffee. Girl, nothing is ever just coffee. Especially not with a man who drives a Mercedes and has sad eyes. That's how they get you. But Keisha had helped her pick the outfit anyway because that's what best friends did. Even when they thought you were making a terrible decision. Ji-hoon was already there when she walked in, sitting at a corner table with his back to the wall. She noticed that detail, the tactical positioning, and filed it away. He stood when he saw her and Martha's breath caught. In daylight, out of the rain, he was even more striking. Today he wore dark jeans and a black button-down, casual but still somehow elegant, and when he smiled at her the whole cafe seemed to brighten. You came, he said. You sound surprised. I thought you might reconsider. Decide I was too. He gestured vaguely. Mysterious? Intense? Possibly dangerous. Martha sat down. I did reconsider. Multiple times. But here I am anyway. Why? Honestly? I'm not sure. Maybe because you fed me when I was hungry. Maybe because you didn't hit on me or expect anything. Or maybe... She met his eyes. Maybe because I know what it's like to be lonely and I saw it in you too. Something flickered across his face. Vulnerability quickly shuddered. Coffee? He asked, deflecting. The macchiato here is excellent. They talked for 2 hours. Or rather, Martha talked and Ji-hoon listened, asking questions that drew her out. About her studies, her grandmother, her dreams of maybe opening a soul food bakery someday that combined her grandmother's Haitian recipes with classic American Southern food. She found herself telling him about her parents' car accident when she was 7, about growing up with Grandma Alice in Little Haiti, about the full scholarship to the University of Miami that was her ticket out of poverty. Ji-hoon revealed less, but what he shared came in carefully measured pieces. He'd been born in Seoul. Lost his parents young, he didn't say how. Came to America at 16 with nothing. Built something for himself in Miami. What kind of something? Martha asked. His smile was sharp. Import-export. That's vague. Yes. Are you involved in anything illegal? Would you believe me if I said no? Probably not. He laughed, a real laugh this time, surprised out of him. You're very direct. I'm a psychology student. We're trained to read people. And you? She studied him openly. You're careful. Too careful. The way you sit with your back to the wall. How your eyes track everyone who comes in. The expensive watch but understated clothes. You're either law enforcement or the opposite. And you don't think I'm law enforcement? No, Martha said softly. You carry guilt. Cops carry righteousness, even the dirty ones. You carry something heavier. Ji-hoon was silent for a long moment. You should stay away from me, he said finally. I'm not a good person, Martha Jackson. Good people rarely say that, she replied. Bad people think they're justified. Maybe I'm justified too. Are you? I used to think so. He looked down at his coffee. Now I'm not sure what I think anymore. Her phone buzzed, a text from the hospital asking if she could cover a shift. She sighed. I have to go. Work. I'll drive you. You don't have to. I want to. The Mercedes was parked half a block away. As they walked, Martha noticed something she'd missed before. A black SUV parked across the street, 2 men inside watching them. When Ji-hoon opened her door, the SUV's engine started. Friends of yours? She asked carefully. Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. Security. Why do you need security? Like I said, Miami's dangerous. The drive to the hospital was tense. The SUV followed at a discreet distance, and Martha could feel Ji-hoon's attention splitting between her and the rearview mirror. When he pulled up to the employee entrance, he put the car in park but left the engine running. I had a good time today, Martha said. Despite the mysterious security detail. So did I. He hesitated. Can I see you again? Why? Because talking to you feels like breathing for the first time in years. The honesty of it hit her like a wave. Martha reached out without thinking and touched his hand where it rested on the gear shift. His skin was warm and she felt him tense at the contact, then carefully relax. Yes, she said. You can see me again. Over the next 2 weeks they fell into a pattern. Coffee dates that turned into dinners. Drives along Ocean Drive where Ji-hoon would point out landmarks and tell her stories about Miami's history that probably weren't in any guidebooks. Late-night texts when Martha couldn't sleep between study sessions and Ji-hoon was working, though he never specified what that work entailed. The black SUV was always there. Different vehicles, sometimes different faces, but always present. Martha pretended not to notice. Ji-hoon pretended she wasn't noticing. It was a delicate dance, both of them circling around the truth neither wanted to name. One evening, Ji-hoon picked her up after her shift and instead of heading to a restaurant, drove to South Point Park. The sun was setting, painting the Atlantic in shades of orange and gold, and the beach was almost empty. They walked along the water, shoes in hand, waves lapping at their ankles. Martha had changed out of her scrubs into a sundress, and the ocean breeze lifted the hem around her knees. Tell me about your parents, she said. The real story. Ji-hoon was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father was involved with an organization in Seoul. When I was 15, a rival group decided to send a message. They set fire to our apartment while we slept. His voice was flat, emotionless. I survived because I was at a friend's house. My parents and my younger sister didn't. Ji-hoon. Martha stopped walking, turned to face him. I'm so sorry. My father's associates brought me to America. Said they'd take care of me. And they did. His smile was bitter. They trained me, educated me, made me useful. By the time I was old enough to leave, I was in too deep. And I was good at it. At what? Surviving. Making money. Eliminating problems. He met her eyes. I'm telling you this so you understand. I'm not a victim, Martha. I chose this life. I've done things that would make you run screaming if you knew the details. Martha reached up and cupped his face with one hand. His skin was warm from the sun and she could feel the tension in his jaw. You were a child. You did what you had to do to survive. That doesn't make you a monster. You don't know. I know enough. She stroked her thumb along his cheekbone. I know you're trying to warn me away because you think I deserve better. I know you bought groceries and had them delivered to my grandmother's house last week. Yes, I figured it out. I know you wait outside the hospital sometimes when I work late shifts to make sure I get to my car safely. He looked stunned. How did you? I told you. Psychology student. I'm trained to observe. She smiled. And you're not as subtle as you think you are. I should let you go, he said hoarsely. This is dangerous for you. Being near me. Probably. Martha stepped closer until their bodies were almost touching. But I'm not afraid. You should be. I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of what happens if I walk away and spend the rest of my life wondering what if. Ji-hoon's control cracked. His hands came up to her waist, pulling her against him, and his forehead dropped to rest against hers. You're going to ruin me, he whispered. Good, Martha whispered back. Maybe you need to be ruined. They stood like that as the sun sank into the ocean, two broken people finding something whole in each other, while the black SUV waited in the parking lot and danger circled closer with every passing day. Miami in August was a furnace, the kind of heat that made the air shimmer and turned every breath into work. But Martha barely noticed anymore, too caught up in the strange double life she was leading, Days filled with lectures and hospital shifts and caring for her grandmother, nights and stolen hours spent with Ji-hoon, learning the contours of his carefully guarded heart. They met in secret mostly. Not because Ji-hoon demanded it, but because Martha understood instinctively that being seen with him too publicly would invite questions she couldn't answer. So they found the hidden places. A Cuban restaurant in Hialeah where the owner knew Ji-hoon and never asked questions. Sunrise walks on empty beaches, drives through the Everglades where the city felt 1,000 miles away. Keisha knew, of course. Keisha always knew. "You're in deep," she said one morning, watching Martha get ready for a beach picnic with Ji-hoon. "Like, ocean floor, no light, definitely gonna drown deep. I know what I'm doing." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm standing, you're dating a man who has bodyguards and won't tell you what he does for a living and looks at you like you're the only thing keeping him from falling apart." Keisha crossed her arms. "That's not a relationship, girl. That's a tragedy waiting to happen." Martha paused, makeup brush in hand. "Maybe. But it's my tragedy to make." "What about your grandmother? Your degree? Your whole entire future? What about being happy for 5 damn minutes?" The words came out sharper than intended. "I spend every day watching my grandmother die slowly. I work myself to exhaustion. I study until I can't see straight. For once, just once, I want something that's mine. Something that makes me feel alive." Keisha's expression softened. "I just don't want to see you get hurt." "Too late." Martha smiled sadly. "I'm already in love with him. The hurt's inevitable either way." The beach picnic was Ji-hoon's idea. He picked her up at noon, the Mercedes loaded with a wicker basket and blankets, and drove her to a stretch of sand north of the city that was somehow deserted despite the perfect weather. "How do you know about all these secret spots?" Martha asked as he spread the blanket on the sand. "I've lived in Miami a long time. You learn where to go when you want to disappear." He started unpacking the basket. Fresh fruit, Korean fried chicken, rice balls, champagne. "I wanted to celebrate." "Celebrate what?" "You. Getting a perfect score on your abnormal psychology midterm." Martha's mouth fell open. "How did you know about that?" "I just found out this morning." She stopped. "You hacked my student portal. I have people who are good with computers." That's invasive? Creepy? A gross violation of privacy?" Ji-hoon's expression was unrepentant. "Yes to all. But I wanted to do something nice for you, and you never tell me when good things happen. Because my good things are boring compared to your life. Your good things are the only real things in my life." He said it simply, matter-of-factly, like he was commenting on the weather. Martha's heart did something complicated in her chest. She crawled across the blanket and kissed him, soft, sweet, tasting like salt from the ocean breeze. Ji-hoon responded immediately, his hand coming up to cup the back of her head, fingers threading through her hair. They'd kissed before, but always carefully, always with restraint. This was different. This was Martha pouring 3 weeks of pent-up want into the press of her mouth, and Ji-hoon answering with a hunger that made her dizzy. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-hoon's eyes were dark with something that went beyond desire. "If we keep doing this," he said roughly, "I won't be able to let you go." "Then don't." "Martha." "I know what you are," she said. "Maybe not the details, but I'm not stupid. I know you're involved in something illegal. I know it's dangerous. I know people could get hurt." She framed his face with both hands. "I'm choosing you anyway. You could have anyone. Someone clean. Someone safe. I don't want safe. I want you." Something broke in him then. He kissed her again, harder this time, and they tumbled onto the blanket with the ocean roaring beside them and the sun beating down and the world narrowing to just skin and breath and the desperate need to be closer. They didn't have sex, not there, not yet, but it was close. Close enough that Martha felt every hard line of his body against hers, close enough that she heard the barely controlled want in his breathing, close enough that when he finally pulled back and rested his forehead against hers, they were both shaking. "I'm falling in love with you," Ji-hoon said. "And it terrifies me." "I already fell," Martha whispered. "Weeks ago. That night in the rain. That was just attraction." "No." She kissed the corner of his mouth. "That was recognition. Like my soul saw yours and said, there you are. Finally." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking. Real talking, the kind that stripped away pretense and left you raw and vulnerable. Ji-hoon told her about the syndicate, carefully without names or specifics, but enough for her to understand. Smuggling operations through the port of Miami. Underground gambling. Protection rackets. Money laundering. A whole shadow economy that existed in the cracks of the legitimate world. I justify it by saying I don't deal drugs, don't traffic people, he said, staring out at the ocean. Like that makes me better. Like some kinds of crime are acceptable. Do you want out? Every day. But it's not that simple. I have obligations. People who depend on me. Rivals who would see any weakness as an opportunity to attack. What if you had a reason to try? Martha asked. What if you had something worth fighting for? He looked at her then, and his expression was so tender it made her ache. I'm looking at her. Martha moved closer, tucking herself against his side. His arm came around her automatically, pulling her in, and they sat like that while the sun tracked across the sky. Tell me about this bakery dream, Ji-hoon said eventually. So she did. Told him about growing up in her grandmother's kitchen, learning to make pen patat and diri ak dijoen alongside sweet potato pie and buttermilk biscuits. About the way food could be love made tangible, how breaking bread together was a kind of intimacy all its own. About her vision of a small storefront, maybe in Little Haiti or Overtown, where she could honor both her Haitian heritage and the Southern soul food tradition, creating something new from the intersection. It sounds beautiful, Ji-hoon said. It's a pipe dream. I'm drowning in student loans. Grandma's medical bills are crushing. I'll probably be 40 before I have enough saved to even think about. What if I helped? No. Martha sat up, turning to face him. Absolutely not. I appreciate the offer, but I need to do this myself. If I let you bankroll my dreams, they're not really mine anymore. Even if it takes years? Even then. Some things have to be earned, Ji-hoon. Not bought. He studied her with something like awe. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. I'm Haitian and I'm from Little Haiti. Stubborn is in my DNA. She softened. But I love you for offering. You love me. He said it like he was testing the words, seeing how they felt. Yeah, I do. Terrifying, isn't it? Completely. He pulled her back down against him. I love you too, Martha Jackson. God help us both. They watched the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. Orange and pink and purple bleeding into darkness. Ji-hoon's phone buzzed repeatedly, but he ignored it, and for a few perfect hours, it was just them and the ocean and a future that felt almost possible. The drive back to reality was quiet. Ji-hoon held her hand while he drove, his thumb tracing circles on her palm, and Martha let herself float in the comfortable silence. Until she noticed the car following them. Not the usual black SUV with Ji-hoon's security. A different vehicle, gray sedan, tinted windows, keeping exactly 3 car lengths back. Ji-hoon noticed it too. His posture changed, shoulders tensing, eyes flicking constantly to the rearview mirror. What is it? Martha asked quietly. Probably nothing. You're a terrible liar. His grip tightened on her hand. It's not my people. Then whose? I don't know. But I'm going to find out. He made a series of quick turns and the sedan stayed with them, confirming the tale. Ji-hoon cursed softly in Korean and pulled out his phone, rapid-fire conversation in his native language. 2 blocks later, the black SUV materialized from a side street, positioning itself between the Mercedes and the sedan. There was a brief, tense moment where Martha thought she might witness a car chase straight out of a movie, but the sedan suddenly peeled off, disappearing into traffic. Are you okay? Ji-hoon asked. Define okay. Martha's heart was hammering. Was that because of you or because of me? Me. Always me. His voice was tight with anger. At himself, she realized. This is why I should stay away from you. Little late for that. Martha, I'm serious. If they know about you, then they know. And we deal with it. Together. She squeezed his hand. You don't get to push me away now because things got scary. I knew what I was signing up for. No, you really didn't. Then educate me. Stop protecting me from the truth and let me make my own choices. He pulled up to her grandmother's house and killed the engine. In the amber glow of the streetlights, his face looked carved from stone. There are people who want what I have. Power. Territory. Money. The only reason they haven't moved against me is because I'm too strong, too well-connected, too dangerous to attack directly. But if they find a weakness, a pressure point, they'll use it. And you? He touched her face gently. You're the biggest weakness I've ever had. Then we make me a strength instead. Martha's mind was already working, psychology training kicking in. You're thinking about this wrong. They see a vulnerability, but what if we make them see an asset? Someone smart, strategic, who understands people and how to read them. You want to be part of this world? He sounded horrified. I want to be part of your life. And this is your life, whether I like it or not. She kissed him softly. Let me in, Ji-hoon. All the way. Or let me go. But don't keep me in this halfway place where I'm important enough to love but not important enough to trust. The choice hung between them like smoke. Finally, Ji-hoon exhaled and leaned back in his seat. Okay, he said. Okay. I'll tell you everything. But not tonight. Tomorrow. Come to my place. I'll explain how it all works, who the players are, what we're up against. Your place? I don't even know where you live. Star Island. The blue house at the end. Martha's eyebrows shot up. Star Island was where celebrities and billionaires lived. Waterfront mansions worth tens of millions. Of course you live on Star Island. Don't judge me. I'm absolutely judging you. But she was smiling. Tomorrow then. I have a shift until 3 but I can come after. I'll send a car. A Mercedes? Always. He kissed her one more time, slow and deep and full of promises neither of them was sure they could keep. Be careful, Martha. Please. You too. She watched him drive away, the Mercedes disappearing into the Miami night. Inside, her grandmother was awake, watching her stories, oxygen machine humming. You're glowing, Grandma Alice said, eyes sharp despite the illness ravaging her body. That's a man glow. Who is he? Someone complicated. The good ones always are. Her grandmother patted the couch beside her. Tell me about him. So Martha did. Edited version but enough truth that it felt like confession. And Grandma Alice listened, the way she always had, and when Martha finished she said, Baby girl, I don't have much time left. We both know it. And I've spent my whole life playing it safe, doing what I was supposed to, following the rules. She took Martha's hand. I want better for you. I want you to be happy even if it's messy. Even if it's dangerous. Life's too short for anything else. Martha felt tears prick her eyes. What if I lose him? Then you'll have loved and lost. Still better than never loving at all. Grandma Alice squeezed her hand. But that boy? The way you describe him looking at you? He's not going anywhere. Except maybe where you lead him. That night, Martha lay in bed with her phone pressed to her chest. Ji-hoon's last text still glowing on the screen. Sleep well. Dream of oceans and possibilities. She dreamed of both. And when she woke, she knew, whatever came next, whatever dangers lurked in the shadows, she was all in. No turning back now. The house on Star Island was exactly what Martha expected and nothing like it at the same time. Expected. Modern architecture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay, the kind of interior design that looked ripped from Architectural Digest. Art on the walls that was probably worth more than most people's houses. A pool that seemed to merge seamlessly with the ocean beyond. Unexpected, the warmth of it. Family photos, Ji-hoon as a child with his parents and sister, all smiling, all alive. Books everywhere in both Korean and English. A kitchen that was clearly actually used not just for show. Plants thriving in the Miami sun. It felt like a home, not just a house. Like someone lived here who was trying very hard to be human. Ji-hoon met her at the door in jeans and a white t-shirt, barefoot, looking younger and more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. Welcome, he said, and there was nervousness in his voice. Like her opinion of his space actually mattered. It's beautiful, Martha said honestly. Relief flickered across his face. Come. I'll show you everything. Everything turned out to be literal. He walked her through the house, explaining each room, each piece of art, each photo. Then he took her to his office, a sleek space dominated by a massive desk and multiple computer monitors, and started explaining his organization. I run what's essentially a small corporation, he said, pulling up files and charts on the screens. Except instead of selling widgets, we facilitate the movement of goods through the port of Miami. Some legal. Most not. What kind of goods? Electronics. Designer goods. Luxury cars. Sometimes weapons, though I'm trying to phase that out. He zoomed in on a shipping manifest. We have people inside the port, in customs, in the shipping companies. We smooth the way for cargo that would otherwise be flagged. And the gambling? 3 establishments. High-end poker games, sports betting, some slots. Technically illegal, but we pay off the right people and we're careful about who we let in. Martha studied the screens, her psychology training analyzing patterns and connections. This is incredibly organized. It has to be. Chaos gets you caught or killed. He pulled up another screen, this one showing a map of Miami with various colored markers. These are territories. Blue is ours. Red is the Bratva Russian mob. Yellow is the Colombians. Green is a newer group, Chinese triad moving in from California. And you all just coexist? We have agreements. Boundaries. As long as everyone stays in their lane, there's enough money for everyone. His expression darkened. Usually. What changed? The Colombians want the port. They're tired of splitting it with us. And they have someone on my crew feeding them information. He touched a marker on the map. 2 weeks ago, one of my shipments was intercepted. Not by cops, by the Colombians. They knew exactly when and where to hit us. A mole. Yes. And until I find them, we're vulnerable. Martha moved closer to the screens, studying the information. Who knew about that shipment? 8 people. All longtime associates. All thoroughly vetted. Can I see their files? Ji-hoon pulled up dossiers, and Martha read through each one with the careful attention she gave to patient charts at the hospital. Looking for patterns. Inconsistencies. Tells. Him, she said finally, pointing to a man named Rodriguez. He's the leak. What? Oh. Rodriguez has been with me for 5 years. Look at his financials. He's making regular payments to an offshore account. Started 6 months ago. Right when the Colombians started getting aggressive. She zoomed in. And his wife just filed for divorce. He's desperate for money and angry at the world. Perfect target for recruitment. Ji-hoon stared at the screen, then at her. How did you? Psychology. People have patterns. Break the pattern, there's usually a reason. She turned to face him. What are you going to do about it? His expression went cold. What do you think I'm going to do? Ji-hoon. He betrayed me. Put my people at risk. There's only one response to betrayal in this world. You're talking about killing him. I'm talking about survival. But she could see the conflict in his eyes. This is who I am, Martha. This is what I do. I warned you. And I'm telling you there's another way. Use him. Feed him false information. Turn him back against the Colombians. Get actual proof and use it as leverage. This isn't a therapy session. These are people who will kill me and everyone I care about if they smell weakness. And what does killing every problem make you? Just another monster feeding the cycle. Martha stepped closer, voice soft but firm. You said you wanted out someday. That you wanted to be better. This is where better starts. With a choice that doesn't end in blood. They stood facing each other, two opposing philosophies colliding. Then Ji-hoon's phone rang, harsh, urgent. He answered in Korean, listened, and his face went white. When he hung up, his hands were shaking. What is it? Martha asked. The Colombians just hit one of my gambling houses. 3 of my people are dead. 5 more in the hospital. He was already moving, grabbing a jacket, checking a gun that Martha hadn't known he was carrying. This is war now. Ji-hoon, wait. No. No more waiting. No more trying to be better. This is the world I live in and I have to respond or I'm dead. He stopped at the door, looked back at her. You should go. This is going to get ugly. I'm not leaving you. Martha. I said I was all in. I meant it. She grabbed her purse. Where are you going? To the hospital first. To see my people. Then. His jaw clenched. Then to send a message the Colombians won't forget. The drive to Jackson Memorial was silent and tense. Ji-hoon's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and Martha could practically feel the violence radiating off him like heat. The black SUVs flanked them, for now instead of one, all bristling with dangerous men. At the hospital, Ji-hoon became someone else. Cold. Commanding. Moving through the halls like he owned them, nurses and security guards parting before him without question. Money and power had their own language and everyone here spoke it fluently. 2 of his people were in surgery. The other 3 were in ICU, one of them a woman barely older than Martha, her face covered in bandages, machines breathing for her. Ji-hoon stood beside her bed for a long moment, something cracking in his controlled facade. Then he turned and walked out, Martha hurrying to follow. She has a daughter, he said flatly. 5 years old. I'm godfather. Ji-hoon. Don't. He spun to face her, and for the first time she saw real rage burning in his eyes. Don't tell me there's another way. Don't tell me to be better. Not when my family is bleeding on hospital beds. Your family wouldn't want you to become what you hate. You don't know what they want. You don't know anything about this life. But his voice cracked on the last word, betraying him. Martha took his face in both hands, forcing him to look at her. I know you. I know that killing the people responsible won't make you feel better. It'll just add more ghosts to the ones you already carry. Then what do I do? The question came out raw, broken. How do I protect my people without being a monster? You be smart. Strategic. You hit them where it hurts without becoming them. She pressed her forehead to his. And you let me help you figure out how. They stood like that in the harsh fluorescent light of the hospital hallway, while doctors rushed past and machines beeped and the city churned outside, indifferent to their struggle. Finally, Ji-hoon exhaled. Okay. We do it your way. But if it doesn't work, if my people keep dying, then we reassess. Together. He kissed her then, hard and desperate, like she was the only thing tethering him to humanity. And maybe she was. They went back to Star Island to plan. Martha spread out everything she knew about conflict de-escalation, negotiation tactics, game theory. Ji-hoon provided the practical knowledge of criminal politics. They worked through the night, fueled by Cuban coffee and desperation, building a strategy that didn't end in a bloodbath. Dawn was breaking over the bay when Ji-hoon finally sat back, looking at the plan they'd created. This might actually work, he said, sounding surprised. Of course it will work. I'm very smart. Martha stretched, exhausted. Now you need to sleep. So do you. I have class in 3 hours. Skip it. He pulled her to her feet, leading her toward the bedroom. You've been up all night. You need rest. Ji-hoon, I can't just. Please. His eyes were soft, vulnerable. Stay. Just for a few hours. I need. He paused, searching for words. I need to know you're safe. Here. With me. How could she say no to that? The bedroom was beautiful, all white linens and ocean views, but Martha barely noticed. She was asleep almost before her head hit the pillow, Ji-hoon's arm wrapped around her waist, his breath warm against her neck. She woke to afternoon sun and Ji-hoon watching her, propped on one elbow, expression unreadable. Creepy, she mumbled. You talk in your sleep. What did I say? That you love me. And something about banana bread. His smile was soft. It was adorable. Martha groaned and buried her face in the pillow. Kill me now. Never. He kissed her shoulder, her neck, the sensitive spot behind her ear. I love you too much. She turned in his arms and suddenly they were kissing, slow and deep and full of the want they'd been banking for weeks. His hands found the hem of her shirt, and hers found the waistband of his jeans, and there was a suspended moment where they both knew where this was heading and both had the choice to stop. Neither of them stopped. Making love with Ji-hoon was nothing like Martha expected and everything she needed. Gentle when she expected rough. Reverent when she expected urgent. He touched her like she was precious, kissed her like she was air, and when they finally came together it felt like coming home. Afterward, they lay tangled together while the ocean breeze drifted through the open windows and Miami pulsed with life outside their bubble. I love you, Ji-hoon said against her hair. Whatever happens next, I need you to know that. Whatever happens next, we face it together, Martha replied. But even as she said it, she felt the weight of premonition pressing against her chest. Like the universe was holding its breath. Like the storm was just beginning. The plan Martha and Ji-hoon devised was elegant in its simplicity. Use Rodriguez, the mole, to feed false information to the Colombians. Lure them into a trap that wouldn't kill them but would expose their operations to the DA in a way that couldn't be traced back to Ji-hoon. Turn enemies into liabilities for each other, step back and watch them implode. It should have worked. For 3 days it did. Rodriguez, confronted with the evidence Martha had found and offered immunity in exchange for cooperation, flipped immediately. The false intel was fed. The Colombians took the bait. Then everything went sideways. Martha was at the hospital, halfway through a night shift, when her phone exploded with messages. Keisha, frantic, turn on the news. No. She ducked into a supply closet and pulled up a local news stream. Her blood went cold. Massive shootout in Wynwood left at least 4 dead and 7 wounded tonight. Police are calling it gang-related violence, possibly connected to ongoing cartel activity in the area. Sources say the target was a high-ranking member of a Korean-American criminal organization. Martha's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. Don't say anything, just listen. A man's voice, heavily accented Colombian Spanish. Your boyfriend got very lucky tonight. Next time, maybe we aim for people he loves instead. Maybe a pretty black girl who works at Jackson Memorial. Maybe an old woman on oxygen in Little Haiti. The line went dead. Martha couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Terror and rage fought for dominance in her chest. She called Ji-hoon. No answer. Called his security. No answer. Texted, please tell me you're alive. 3 minutes later, the longest 3 minutes of her life, her phone buzzed. I'm okay. Don't go home. Don't go anywhere alone. I'm sending people to you. The black SUV picked her up at the hospital employee entrance 20 minutes later. The driver, a serious-faced Korean man she'd seen before, didn't speak, just drove with tactical efficiency through the Miami streets to Star Island. The house looked the same from the outside. Inside was carnage. Not physical, no blood, no bodies, but the emotional wreckage was everywhere. Ji-hoon's people moved through the space like ghosts, talking in hushed tones, weapons visible. The energy was grief and rage and fear all mixed together. Martha found Ji-hoon in his office, standing at the windows overlooking the bay. His jacket was torn, there was a cut on his cheek, and his knuckles were bloody. "What happened?" she asked softly. "Ambush. The Colombians knew we were coming. They knew everything." He turned to face her, and his eyes were hollow. "Rodriguez wasn't just feeding them information. He was working with them to set me up. The DA raid we planned? They tipped off the Colombians. It was supposed to be me walking into that warehouse. I would have died tonight if one of my guys hadn't gotten suspicious and called in backup. Oh God, Ji-hoon. 4 of my people are dead, including Minicio, the woman from the hospital. She woke up long enough to warn us then." His voice cracked. "She had a daughter." Martha crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him. He stood rigid for a moment, then crumpled, his face buried in her neck, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "I tried to do it your way," he said brokenly. "I tried to be better. And my family died for it. This isn't your fault. Or mine. This is. It's exactly my fault. This is the world I built. The life I chose." He pulled back, framing her face with bloody hands. "And now they've threatened you. They know about you, Martha. They know about your grandmother. You're not safe anymore. Then we go to the police. And tell them what? That we tried to manipulate a gang war? That I run a criminal organization? They'll arrest us both." He shook his head. "There's only one way out of this now. Don't." Martha gripped his wrists. "Don't say you're going to kill them all. That's not who you are. Maybe it's exactly who I am. Maybe I've been fooling myself thinking I could be anything else. You're grieving. You're scared. But you're not a monster. Look at me." He pulled away, gesturing at the house, his people, the empire he'd built. "This is what I am. A criminal. A killer. Someone who gets people hurt. And the worst part." His laugh was bitter. "The absolute worst part is that I dragged you into this. I let myself love you knowing it would paint a target on your back. I chose this. I chose you. You chose what you thought I could become. Not what I am." He moved to his desk, pulled out a gun, checked the magazine. "I need to end this. Tonight. Before they come for you or your grandmother." "And how does that end?" "You kill them, their organization retaliates, you kill more, they kill more. Where does it stop?" "It stops when one side is too destroyed to fight back." Martha felt tears burning her eyes. "That's not justice. That's just more death. Welcome to my world." He holstered the gun. "I'm having people watch your grandmother's house. Round-the-clock protection. And you're staying here until this is over. You can't just." "Yes, I can. Because I love you and I will not let them hurt you." The finality in his voice left no room for argument. "Now please, go upstairs. Rest. Let me handle this." "By becoming exactly what they think you are? By protecting what's mine." They stared at each other across the office, 2 people who loved each other desperately and understood each other not at all. Martha's phone rang. "Grandma Alice." "Baby girl." Her grandmother's voice was weak, strained. "Someone's outside the house. I'm scared." "Stay inside. Lock the doors. Ji-hoon's people are." "They're not Ji-hoon's people. They're slashing my tires. Breaking my windows." The sound of shattering glass. Her grandmother's scream. Then silence. "Grandma? Grandma." Ji-hoon was already moving, shouting orders in Korean. Martha ran for the door, but he caught her arm. "My people will get there faster." "That's my grandmother." She wrenched free. "I'm going." "Then I'm going with you." They made the drive to Little Haiti in record time, multiple SUVs in convoy, running red lights and stop signs like they didn't exist. Martha's heart was trying to beat out of her chest, prayers running through her mind in English and Creole. Please let her be okay, please, please, please. The house looked wrong. Windows broken. Front door hanging open. But no cars. No attackers. Ji-hoon's security swept the house while Martha ran inside, screaming for her grandmother. She found her in the bedroom, huddled in the closet, still clutching the phone. "Alive. Shaking. But alive. I'm here. I've got you. You're okay." Martha held her grandmother while sirens wailed in the distance. "They said to tell you," Grandma Alice whispered. "Said this is what happens when you disrespect powerful people. Said next time you won't find her breathing. White-hot rage flooded through Martha. She looked up to find Ji-hoon in the doorway, his expression murderous. "Get her to the hospital," he said quietly. "I'll meet you there." "Where are you going?" "To send a message of my own." "Ji-hoon, no. They threatened your family. In my world, there's only one response to that." He crouched down, looked Grandma Alice in the eye. "I promise you they will never touch you again." Then he was gone, leaving Martha torn between staying with her grandmother and running after the man she loved before he did something they couldn't come back from. In the end, family won. She called 911, rode with her grandmother in the ambulance, held her hand while doctors checked her over. Minor cuts from glass. Fear. But alive. While they waited for the discharge papers, Martha's phone buzzed. A video message from an unknown number. She almost didn't watch it. Then she did. The footage was grainy, shot from a security camera somewhere industrial. It showed Ji-hoon, beautiful, deadly Ji-hoon, walking into a warehouse with 6 of his people. What followed was brutal and efficient. The Colombians who'd attacked her grandmother's house didn't stand a chance. But what stopped Martha's breath wasn't the violence. It was what came after. Ji-hoon standing over the leader of the group, gun pressed to the man's forehead. The man begging. And Ji-hoon, her Ji-hoon who'd kissed her so gently this morning, putting a bullet in his brain without hesitation. The video cut to black. Text appeared, "This is who he really is. Remember that." Martha sat in the harsh hospital light, watching the video loop in her mind, and felt something fundamental shift inside her. She loved him. God help her, she loved him. But love might not be enough. Not for this. Not for any of this. When Ji-hoon finally arrived at the hospital 2 hours later, cleaned up but still carrying death in his eyes, Martha was sitting with her grandmother, who was finally asleep. He looked at her and she looked at him, and everything that needed to be said hung unspoken between them. "I did what I had to do," he said finally. "I know. I'd do it again. For you. For her. For anyone I love. I know that too. Do you hate me?" Martha took a shuddering breath. "I should. I want to. But I don't. And I don't know what that makes me. Human." He sat beside her, careful not to touch. "I'm sorry. For all of it. Are you? Or are you just sorry I saw the truth?" The question hit like a bullet. Ji-hoon flinched but didn't deny it. "They sent me a video," Martha said, "of you killing that man. They want me to see you as a monster. And do you?" She wanted to say no. Wanted to say she saw only the man who brought her banana bread and remembered her grandmother's favorite tea and looked at her like she hung the moon. But she'd also seen him press a gun to someone's head and pull the trigger without hesitation. Both things were true. Both things were him. "I see someone who's been hurt so badly he thinks violence is the only language left," she said finally. "I see someone who's never been given the chance to be anything else. And I see someone I love so much it physically hurts. But I also see someone who just crossed a line he can't uncross. And I don't know if love is enough to bridge that gap." Ji-hoon stood, hands in his pockets, shoulders bowed under invisible weight. "What do you want from me, Martha? Tell me and I'll do it. I want you to choose a different path. Not for me. For yourself. For the man I know you could be if you just let go of all this." She gestured vaguely at everything, "death. And if I can't? Then I guess we find out what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object." They sat in silence while hospital machinery beeped and fluorescent lights hummed and the city breathed outside. Finally, Grandma Alice stirred. Opened her eyes. Looked at Ji-hoon with the penetrating gaze she usually reserved for liars and politicians. "You love my granddaughter?" she said. "Not a question." "Yes, ma'am." "Enough to change?" "I'm trying." "Try harder." Grandma Alice's voice was stronger now. "Because that girl deserves a man who'll build with her, not burn the world down around her." Ji-hoon met the old woman's eyes. "I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting you're still choosing violence. Still choosing the easy way instead of the right way. There's nothing easy about what I do. Isn't there? Violence is simple. Quick. Lets you feel powerful when really you're just scared." She reached out a trembling hand and Ji-hoon, to Martha's surprise, took it. "My granddaughter sees something in you. Something worth saving. Don't you dare prove her wrong." Something cracked in Ji-hoon's face. "I don't know how to be anything else." "Then learn. People change every day. Alcoholics get sober. Criminals go straight. Sinners find redemption." Grandma Alice squeezed his hand. "But only if they want it badly enough. Only if they have something to live for beyond revenge and power." Ji-hoon looked at Martha. "I have something." "Then choose her," Grandma Alice said simply. Choose the life she's offering. Choose to be better. Or let her go so she can find someone who will. The ultimatum hung in the air like smoke. Martha held her breath, watching the man she loved wrestle with demons she couldn't fight for him. Finally, Ji-hoon stood. I need time. To think. To plan. He looked at Martha. To figure out if I can actually do this. How much time? I don't know. A few days. Maybe a week. I need to make sure you're both protected first, put things in place, talk to people. You're stalling, Martha said. I'm being practical. But his eyes told a different story. Please. Just, give me this. Let me figure it out without you watching, waiting for me to fail. It hurt. God, it hurt. But Martha understood. Sometimes people needed to hit bottom alone before they could climb out. Okay, she said. I'll give you a week. But Ji-hoon? If you come back and you're still the same, if you're still choosing violence over change, then we're done. I can't love someone who won't try to be better. I know. He kissed her forehead, gentle and sad, and walked out of the hospital room. Martha watched him go and wondered if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Or the smartest decision. Only time would tell. The week Ji-hoon asked for stretched into 10 days of radio silence. No calls. No texts. Just a constant security presence outside wherever Martha went. Different faces, same black SUVs, always watching. Protecting her from threats she couldn't see while the man she loved fought battles she wasn't allowed to witness. It was maddening. Grandma Alice recovered quickly. The attack had been meant to scare, not injure, and they moved to a temporary apartment Ji-hoon's people had arranged. Nicer than their house, safer, but it felt like a gilded cage. Martha couldn't focus on school, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop wondering if Ji-hoon was okay or if he'd decided the life he knew was easier than the change she demanded. Keisha visited, bringing contraband, good coffee and pastries from their favorite bakery. You look like hell, she said bluntly. Thanks. You're a great friend. I'm a friend who tells the truth. Keisha settled onto the couch, studying Martha with concern. Have you heard from him? No. Maybe that's good. Maybe he's actually figuring his shit out. Or maybe he's getting deeper into the violence and can't face telling me. Martha stared at her cold coffee. I gave him an ultimatum. Choose change or choose the life. What if he chooses the life? Then you'll cry and I'll bring ice cream and eventually you'll remember that you're Martha Jackson. Brilliant, strong, too good for drama anyway. Keisha squeezed her hand. But I don't think that's what's happening. How can you be sure? Because I saw the way he looked at you at the hospital. Like you were oxygen and he was drowning. Men don't look at women like that and then choose violence over love. Martha wanted to believe it. But she'd also seen him put a bullet in a man's head, and that image wouldn't leave her mind. On day 11 her phone finally rang. Ji-hoon's number. She answered on the first ring. Hello. Can you meet me? His voice sounded different. Tired but lighter somehow. Same beach where we had the picnic. Sunset. Ji-hoon, what's? Please. I need to show you something. The beach was empty when Martha arrived, the sun just starting its descent toward the horizon. Ji-hoon stood at the water's edge, barefoot, dress shirt rolled to his elbows, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him in weeks. He turned when he heard her approach and his smile was tentative. Hopeful. Thank you for coming, he said. You've been gone for 11 days. Martha crossed her arms. I was starting to think that I chose the easy way. I know. He gestured to a blanket spread on the sand, a basket beside it. Will you sit? Let me explain. She did, wary but curious. Ji-hoon sat beside her, close but not touching, and for a long moment just watched the waves. I've spent the last week and a half dismantling my empire, he said finally. Or starting to, anyway. It's not simple. There are obligations, debts, people who depend on me. But I've been talking to the FBI. Martha's heart stopped. You what? I made a deal. Immunity in exchange for testimony against the Colombians, the Bratva, everyone. I'm giving them everything, names, locations, financial records, the whole operation. He looked at her. I'm becoming a witness. An informant. Everything I built, I'm tearing down. Ji-hoon. She couldn't process it. Do you understand what you're doing? The danger. I'm choosing you. He took her hand. I'm choosing the life we could have instead of the life I've been living. Is it terrifying? Yes. Will there be consequences? Absolutely. But you were right. Violence just breeds more violence. And I'm tired, Martha. I'm so tired of being that person. Tears spilled down Martha's cheeks. What about your people? The ones who depend on you. I'm setting them up. The ones who want out, I'm helping transition to legitimate work. The ones who want to stay in the game, I'm connecting with organizations that will take them. Nobody's being abandoned. He wiped her tears with his thumb. And the money, most of it's going to restitution to victims. Some I'm keeping for. He paused. For us. If you'll still have me. Of course I'll have you, you idiot. Martha threw her arms around him and he caught her, holding tight. I love you. I love you so much. I love you too. Enough to try to be better. Enough to actually be better. They kissed as the sun painted the sky orange and gold, and for the first time in weeks, Martha felt like she could breathe. But reality intruded quickly. You said you're testifying, she said, pulling back. When? Trials start in about 6 months. Until then well, not quite witness protection but close. FBI oversight. Limited movement. Lots of lawyers. He brushed hair from her face. I understand if this is too much. If you want out. Stop offering me exits. I told you I was all in. Even if it means danger? Even if the people I'm testifying against try to retaliate? Even then. Martha thought of her psychology training, all the statistics about witness intimidation and retaliation. We'll be smart. Careful. Together. Your grandmother is tougher than both of us combined. She'll be fine. Your education. I'll finish. I'm not giving up my dreams just because things got complicated. Ji-hoon studied her face. You're remarkable. You know that. I'm stubborn. There's a difference. No, he said softly. There's not. The next few weeks were strange. Navigating a relationship under FBI supervision, with safe houses and security details and constant awareness that danger lurked in every shadow. But they were weeks spent together building something real amid the chaos. Ji-hoon started therapy. Real therapy, working through the trauma of losing his family, the violence he'd committed, the person he'd become. He didn't share details with Martha, privacy, boundaries, but she could see the work in his eyes, the way he carried himself differently. Martha finished her semester strong, somehow maintaining her GPA despite everything. Her professors noticed her distraction but attributed it to stress about her grandmother. They only knew. Grandma Alice, recovered and feisty, took to Ji-hoon like a long-lost grandson. She taught him to cook Haitian food, griot and banana peas and pickles so spicy it made him cry. He taught her Korean phrases and brought her special tea from an import shop. They'd sit together in the temporary apartment, watching game shows and critiquing the contestants, and something in Ji-hoon's eyes when he looked at her made Martha's heart ache with love. This was what family could be. Should be. But the past wasn't done with them yet. One night, Martha came home from class to find Ji-hoon pacing their living room, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Korean. When he saw her, he hung up and his expression was grim. What's wrong? Rodriguez is dead. Found in his apartment 3 hours ago. Execution style. Martha's blood went cold. The Colombians? Probably. Sending a message. He ran a hand through his hair. The FBI thinks I might be next. They want to move us. Tonight. Move us where? Witness protection. Early. They're worried. No. Martha said it firmly. No running. Not yet. We have lives here. I have school, you have your transition plan, Grandma has her doctors. Martha, this isn't negotiable. If they've killed Rodriguez, it means they know about the deal. No, I'm cooperating. Every moment we stay here, we're targets. Then we get better security. More protection. But we don't disappear. They argued, really argued for the first time since he'd come back. Ji-hoon wanted to prioritize safety above everything. Martha refused to let fear dictate their choices. It escalated, voices rising, until Grandma Alice came out of her bedroom and fixed them both with a look that could melt steel. Both of you sit down and shut up, she commanded. They sat. Now, you. She pointed at Ji-hoon. You want to protect her. I respect that. But you can't wrap her in bubble wrap and call it love. She's a grown woman with a life and dreams and they don't all fit in a safe house. But I'm not done. And you. She turned to Martha. You're brave, baby girl. Maybe too brave. There's a difference between refusing to let fear win and being stupid. If this man says you're in danger, you're in danger. So what do we do? Martha asked. You compromise. Like adults. Like people who love each other. Grandma Alice settled into her chair. You don't run away completely. But you don't stay sitting ducks either. You increase security, you change routines, you stay smart. And if it gets too dangerous, you go into protection. But not before you've actually tried to live your lives first. Ji-hoon looked at Martha. Martha looked at Ji-hoon. She's right, Martha said. She's always right, Ji-hoon agreed. Then to Grandma Alice, thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep my granddaughter alive and happy. In that order. They found a middle ground. Increased security, personal bodyguards now, not just SUVs. Changed apartments to somewhere more secure. Martha's classes went hybrid when possible, in person only with protection. Ji-hoon's FBI meetings happened in safe locations with full tactical support. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't normal. But it was theirs. And slowly, carefully, they started planning for a future beyond survival. Ji-hoon began looking into legitimate businesses he could start, import-export, but actual legal trade this time. Martha applied for internships at counseling centers. They talked about eventually leaving Miami, maybe the Keys, somewhere quieter. I want to open that bakery, Martha said one night, curled against Ji-hoon on their couch. Still. Even after everything. Then you will. I'll help however I can. I need to do it myself. You know that. I know. But that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. He kissed the top of her head. I could be the terrible business manager. The one who eats all the profits. She laughed. Actually laughed. That sounds perfect. But the moment of peace shattered when Ji-hoon's phone buzzed. He read the message and went pale. What is it? The FBI. They've moved up my testimony date. Trials are starting next month, not 6 months from now. Why? Because they've arrested a major Colombian cartel leader. And he's willing to deal. If I testify first, corroborate his story, they'll offer him reduced sentencing. That's good, right? Get it over with faster. Or it's a trap. Or it's the cartel's way of forcing my hand before I'm ready. Ji-hoon started pacing. I don't trust the timing. Neither did Martha if she was honest. But what choice did they have? The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. Lawyers. Depositions. Security briefings. Martha attended what she could, but mostly she tried to maintain normalcy, studying, working, caring for her grandmother. The night before Ji-hoon's testimony, they lay in bed together, neither sleeping. I'm scared, Martha admitted. Me too. What if something goes wrong? Then we deal with it. Together. He pulled her closer. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know, you changed my life. Made me want to be better. Made me be better. You did that yourself. I just believed in you. Same thing. He kissed her, slow and sweet. I love you, Martha Jackson. In every possible universe, in every possible timeline, I love you. I love you too. They made love like it might be the last time, desperate and tender and full of promises they weren't sure they could keep. And when morning came, Ji-hoon put on his suit, kissed Martha goodbye, and walked into the federal courthouse flanked by agents and lawyers and the weight of everything he'd done. Martha watched from the gallery, Grandma Alice beside her, holding her hand. The testimony lasted 6 hours. Ji-hoon spoke calmly, clearly, outlining the entire structure of his former organization, naming names, providing evidence. The defense attorneys tried to break him, but he held firm. And when it was finally over, when the judge called recess and Ji-hoon stepped down from the witness stand, he looked at Martha. Just looked. And smiled. They'd done it. Survived another day. One day closer to the life they wanted. One day further from the life he'd left behind. It should have felt like victory. So why did Martha's skin prickle with warning? Why did she feel like the real storm was still coming? The threat came 3 days after Ji-hoon's testimony. Not a call. Not a message. A package delivered to their secure apartment building, addressed to Martha, making it past security because it was marked as medical supplies from the hospital. Inside, a dozen photographs. Martha at school. At the hospital. Walking with Grandma Alice. Each one marked with a red X over her face. And a note in precise handwriting. He talked. You pay. Ji-hoon saw the photos and went nuclear. Within an hour, their apartment was swarming with FBI agents. Within 2 hours, they were being relocated to a genuine safe house. A nondescript ranch home in Homestead, 30 miles from Miami, surrounded by farmland and security. This is it, the FBI agent in charge, a severe woman named Rodriguez, no relation, told them. You're in full protection now. No more half measures. Martha felt like the walls were closing in. For how long? Until the trials are complete and the cartel is dismantled. Could be months. Could be a year. I can't just disappear for a year. I have school, work, my grandmother's medical care. We'll arrange everything. Online classes. Virtual work if possible. Your grandmother's care is covered. Agent Rodriguez's expression softened slightly. I know this is hard. But they've made a credible threat against your life. We take that seriously. Ji-hoon sat silent through the whole exchange, his face a mask. But Martha knew him well enough now to read the guilt and rage churning underneath. That night, alone in their new sterile safe house bedroom, he finally broke. This is my fault, he said, voice raw. All of it. I dragged you into this world and now you're paying the price. Stop. Martha turned to face him. I chose this, remember? I chose you. You chose what you thought I could become. Not this, not hiding in safe houses, not being threatened by cartels. I chose you. All of you. The past, the present, the messy, complicated future. She took his face in her hands. Do you think I'm some delicate flower who can't handle hard things? I've been handling hard things my whole life. This is just one more. Martha. No. Listen to me. We're going to get through this. The trials will end, the threats will stop, and we'll build the life we talked about. The bakery. The quiet house. Maybe kids someday. But we only get there if you stop trying to shoulder everything alone. Something shifted in his eyes. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. They held each other while the house settled around them. Strange sounds, unfamiliar shadows, the constant awareness of armed guards outside. The next few weeks were an exercise in patience. Martha attended classes online, frustrated by the distance from hands-on learning. Ji-hoon worked with the FBI, providing additional testimony and evidence for multiple ongoing cases. Grandma Alice adapted better than either of them, turning the safe house into a home with the sheer force of her personality. But the isolation wore on all of them. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon while Martha was in a virtual lecture and Ji-hoon was meeting with lawyers, Grandma Alice collapsed. The ambulance came within minutes. Even in witness protection they had protocols, but by the time they reached the hospital, she was barely conscious. The diagnosis hit like a hammer. The cancer had spread to her brain. Weeks, maybe days, the doctor said. Not months. Martha sat by her grandmother's bedside, holding her hand, feeling her world crack apart. Ji-hoon found her there hours later, still in the same position, tears dried on her face. How is she? He asked quietly. Dying. The word came out flat. Finally, actually really dying this time. Martha. I knew it was coming. We've known for months. But somehow I thought. Her voice broke. I thought we'd have more time. Ji-hoon pulled a chair close, sat, took her other hand. What do you need? I need my grandmother not to die in a hospital surrounded by strangers. I need her to be home in her own space with her things. Martha looked at him. Can you make that happen? It's a security risk. I don't care. She's dying, Ji-hoon. She deserves to die with dignity, not locked in witness protection. He studied her face, then nodded. Okay, let me make some calls. The FBI resisted. Argued. Cited protocol and threats and liability. But Ji-hoon, the man who'd built an empire on force of will, didn't back down. He leveraged everything. His cooperation, his testimony, his knowledge. Made it clear that if they didn't accommodate this, he'd stop talking. It was the first time Martha had seen the old Ji-hoon surface, commanding, ruthless and getting what he wanted. But this time it was in service of something good. They moved Grandma Alice back to her own house in Little Haiti. The FBI secured it like Fort Knox. Agents on every corner, cameras everywhere, nobody in or out without clearance. But inside it was home. Martha set up a hospital bed in the living room where her grandmother could see the kitchen where she'd cooked for decades, the photos of family on the walls, the crucifix she'd brought from Haiti 50 years ago. This is better, Grandma Alice whispered, lucid for the moment. I can feel them here. Your parents. My parents. Everyone who came before. Don't talk like that, Martha said, even though she knew it was pointless. Baby girl, I'm ready. I've lived a good life. Raised a beautiful granddaughter. Saw you fall in love with a good man. Yes, he's good, don't argue, and I'm ready to rest. I'm not ready for you to go. You never would be. But I'll always be with you. She touched Martha's cheek. In your strength. Your stubbornness. Your huge heart that loves even when it's scary. That night, Grandma Alice slipped into unconsciousness. The doctors said it wouldn't be long. Martha stayed by her side, holding her hand, whispering memories and love and goodbye. Ji-hoon stayed too, quiet support, making sure Martha ate and slept in small bursts. 3 days later, just after dawn, Grandma Alice took her last breath. Martha felt it, the moment when her grandmother's spirit left, when the body became just a shell. She sat there for a long time, still holding that cooling hand before finally looking up at Ji-hoon with red-rimmed eyes. She's gone, she said. I know. I'm sorry. Me too. The funeral was small but beautiful. Just Martha, Ji-hoon, Keisha, and a few of Grandma Alice's church friends, all carefully vetted by the FBI. They buried her next to Martha's parents in a cemetery overlooking the bay, and the sun shone so bright it hurt. Afterward, back at the safe house, Martha felt hollow. Like something essential had been scooped out of her chest. I don't know how to exist without her, she admitted to Ji-hoon. One breath at a time. One moment. That's all any of us can do. When did you get so wise? Therapy. Lots of therapy. He pulled her close. She loved you so much, Martha. And she was so proud of you. I know. That's what makes it hurt so much. They grieved together, Martha openly with tears and breakdowns and moments of rage at the unfairness of it all. Ji-hoon quietly in the set of his shoulders and the shadows in his eyes. 2 weeks after the funeral, the next trial began. This one was bigger. The head of the Colombian organization charged with everything from trafficking to murder. Ji-hoon's testimony was crucial. Martha insisted on attending despite FBI protests. I need to see this through, she said. For Grandma. For us. For everyone who's been hurt by these people. The courthouse was a fortress. Security swept everyone. Armed agents lined the halls. The defendant, a man called Vargas, sat at the defense table looking calm and dangerous. Ji-hoon testified brilliantly. Methodical. Detailed. Damning. Vargas's lawyer tried to paint him as a criminal trying to save himself, but the evidence was overwhelming. And then, during a recess, it happened. Martha had stepped out to use the restroom, FBI agent following at a discreet distance, when she heard shouting. Gunshots. The agent beside her shoved her into the bathroom, weapon drawn. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you. More shots. Screaming. The sound of bodies hitting the floor. Martha crouched in a bathroom stall, hands over her ears, heart hammering. This was it. The attack everyone had feared. The retaliation. 5 minutes of chaos. Then silence. Then Ji-hoon's voice. Martha? Martha, where are you? She flew out of the stall, found him in the hallway, suit torn, blood on his face, not his, she'd learn later, wild-eyed with panic. Are you hurt? He grabbed her, hands running over her body, checking for wounds. I'm fine. I'm fine. What happened? Vargas's people tried to stage a breakout during the recess. It failed. But his expression darkened. 3 agents are dead. 2 civilians wounded. Oh God. This has to end. Today. Now. There was something hard in Ji-hoon's voice. Decisive. I know where they're regrouping. The FBI doesn't have the location yet, but I do. How? Because I used to be one of them. I know how they think, where they go. He gripped her shoulders. I'm going to give the FBI everything they need to end this. Location. Numbers. Weapons. Everything. Ji-hoon, they tried to kill you today. If you help the FBI raid them, then they'll definitely try to kill me. I know. He kissed her forehead. But I'm done hiding. Done being reactive. This ends now or it never ends. Let the FBI handle it. You've done enough. If I wait, more people die. More agents. More civilians. Maybe you. He looked at her and she saw the determination there. The man he'd been weaponized for good this time. I love you. That's why I have to do this. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You don't get to bench me now. If you're going, I'm going. You need someone watching your back who you can trust completely, and that's me. They argued. The FBI argued. But Martha was immovable, and finally, they agreed to let her come as far as the staging area. The raid happened at sunset. 50 agents. Tactical teams. Helicopters. The works. Ji-hoon had been right about the location. A warehouse complex south of the city near the port. Martha waited with Agent Rodriguez in an SUV half a mile away, watching through binoculars and listening to radio chatter. Alpha team moving in. Bravo team on the roof. Subjects spotted. Gunfire. Explosions. The radio went chaotic. Martha's hands tightened on the binoculars. She could see muzzle flashes. See figures moving. But not Ji-hoon. She couldn't see Ji-hoon. We're pulling back, Agent Rodriguez said suddenly. Too hot. They're calling in. Martha didn't think. Didn't plan. Just grabbed the door handle and ran. Martha. Stop. But she was already sprinting toward the warehouse, toward the gunfire, toward Ji-hoon. She didn't get far. An explosion, massive, earth-shaking, knocked her off her feet. She hit the ground hard, ears ringing, tasting blood. When her vision cleared, the warehouse was engulfed in flames. "No," she whispered. Then screaming, "Ji-hoon." She tried to get up, but strong hands held her down. "Agent Rodriguez." Screaming something Martha couldn't hear over the ringing. Then, impossibly, a figure emerged from the smoke. Tall, limping, supporting another man. Ji-hoon. He collapsed 10 feet from her, and suddenly Martha could move again. She crawled to him, hands shaking, checking for wounds. Blood. So much blood. Coming from his side, his leg. "Medic," she screamed. "Medic." "I'm okay," Ji-hoon gasped. "Got Vargas. Got him out. It's over." "You're shot, you idiot, it's not over?" "No. It is." He touched her face with a bloody hand. "I heard you. Yelling for me. Saved my life. Knew I had to keep going because you were there." He smiled weakly. "Told you I needed you." The medics swarmed, triage in motion. Ji-hoon was loaded into an ambulance, Martha climbing in after him despite protests. On the way to the hospital, he held her hand. "I'm done," he said. "After this. After the trials. I'm completely done. No more danger. No more violence. Just you and me and a quiet life. Promise?" "Promise." Martha kissed his hand, tasting salt and copper and hope. "I love you. I love you too. Always." The warehouse burned behind them, taking the last remnants of Ji-hoon's old life with it. And in the ambulance, racing through Miami streets, 2 survivors held onto each other and refused to let go. Ji-hoon spent 3 days in the hospital. 2 gunshot wounds, 1 to the side, 1 to the thigh, plus smoke inhalation and assorted cuts and bruises. The doctors wanted to keep him longer, but the FBI needed him moved to a secure medical facility. Martha never left his side. She slept in the chair next to his bed, ate vending machine food, and held his hand through nightmares and medication doses. On day 2, when he was coherent and the painkillers had worn off enough for real conversation, Agent Rodriguez came by with an update. Vargas survived the explosion. He's in custody, critical condition but stable. The raid recovered enough evidence to put away his entire organization. She looked at Ji-hoon with something that might have been respect. "You kept your word. Full cooperation. And you pulled Vargas out of that fire when you could have left him." "I'm done being a killer," Ji-hoon said simply. "Yeah, I can see that." Rodriguez glanced at Martha. "The Bureau is prepared to offer both of you a deal. Full immunity, new identities if you want them, relocation assistance. In exchange for your continued testimony until all trials are complete." "And after the trials?" Martha asked. "After? You're free. Clean slate. You disappear, we never bother you again." Sounded too good to be true. But Martha saw the exhaustion in Rodriguez's face. This woman had been fighting cartels for years, losing agents, watching criminals walk. She wanted this win as badly as they wanted out. "We'll take it," Ji-hoon said. "One condition," Martha added. "I finish my degree first. I'm 3 semesters from graduating. I'm not starting over somewhere new without that." Rodriguez considered. "Online classes. Virtual internships. And you keep a security detail until it's safe. Deal?" "Deal." The trials dragged on for 5 more months. Ji-hoon testified in 7 different cases, each one chipping away at the criminal network he'd once been part of. It was grueling, long days in court, hostile cross-examinations, death threats that kept coming despite increasing security. But through it all, Martha was there. Supporting. Encouraging. Keeping him human when the process tried to reduce him to just a witness, just a criminal turned informant. They lived in a series of safe houses, never staying anywhere more than a few weeks. Miami. Fort Lauderdale. West Palm Beach. Each location more isolated than the last. But they made it work. Made it home. Ji-hoon continued therapy, working through the violence he'd committed, the lives he'd taken. Some days were harder than others. Flashbacks, guilt spirals, moments where he looked at Martha like he couldn't believe she still loved him. "I killed people," he said one night, voice hollow. "With my own hands. How do you look at me and not see a monster?" "Because I see the whole person. Not just the worst things you've done." Martha curled against him. "You were a child who was orphaned and exploited. You survived the only way you knew how. And now you're choosing different. That takes more courage than you know. It doesn't erase what I did. No. But it means you're not that person anymore. You're becoming someone better." What if better isn't enough? "It's enough for me." They fell into new rhythms. Martha studied, attended virtual classes, worked on applications for counseling internships. Ji-hoon started planning for their future. researching legitimate import businesses, sketching out business plans, learning to think like a legal entrepreneur instead of a criminal. And slowly, carefully, he began divesting from his old life. The money was the trickiest part. Most of it was assets tied up in illegal operations, impossible to access without triggering investigations. But Ji-hoon had been smart, setting aside clean money over the years, investments that couldn't be traced. I have about 2 million in legitimate assets, he told Martha one evening, showing her the accounting. Stocks, bonds, real estate investments. It's not everything I had, but it's enough to start fresh. That's a lot of money. It's restitution I can't pay to people I've hurt. So I want to do something good with it. He pulled up a document. I'm thinking, half to organizations that help at-risk youth. A quarter for your bakery. The last quarter for us, living expenses while we figure out what's next. Martha's eyes filled with tears. Ji-hoon, I know you wanted to do the bakery yourself. And you will, the work, the vision, all of it. I'm just providing the seed money. Call it an investment from someone who believes in you. That's too much. It's not nearly enough. But it's a start. He kissed her gently. Let me do this. Let me use dirty money for something clean. She agreed and they started planning. Found a small storefront in Liberty City. Not Little Haiti, they needed some distance from the old neighborhood. That was perfect. Drew up business plans. Developed menus that blended Haitian and Southern soul food into something uniquely theirs. What should we call it? Martha asked one night, lying in bed and brainstorming. Something that honors your grandmother, Ji-hoon said immediately. Martha thought about it. Alice's Kitchen. Simple. Classic. Perfect. Alice's Kitchen, he repeated, testing it. I love it. The final trial ended on a Tuesday in February. Vargas was sentenced to life without parole. His organization was dismantled. The FBI made 17 arrests based on Ji-hoon's testimony. When the verdict came down, Agent Rodriguez met them outside the courthouse. It's done, she said. You're free. All of you. The threats have been neutralized, the organization's broken up. You can go back to being normal people now. Just like that. Martha asked. Just like that. We'll keep monitoring for a while, make sure no revenge attempts materialize, but... Rodriguez actually smiled. You did it. You survived. Ji-hoon exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. Thank you. For everything. Thank yourself. You made the hard choice. Rodriguez shook his hand. Not many people in your position choose to turn. Even fewer follow through. You should be proud. That night they celebrated. Just the two of them in their current safe house, with champagne and takeout and the knowledge that tomorrow they could start planning a real future. Where do you want to go? Ji-hoon asked. We can live anywhere. Fresh start. New city. New names if you want. Martha had been thinking about this. The Keys. Maybe Key Largo or Isla Morada. Close enough to Miami to maintain some connections, far enough to feel separate. Ocean views. Quieter pace. The Keys, Ji-hoon mused. I like it. We could get a house with a dock. Maybe a boat. Look at you planning a boat. Very Florida. I'm trying to embrace my new identity, reformed criminal turned boat guy. She laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. That's definitely a unique brand. I'll need a fishing hat. Maybe some cargo shorts. Absolutely not. I have standards. They talked late into the night, mapping out futures both practical and absurd. The bakery in the Keys instead of Miami. Maybe expanding someday. Kids, 2 maybe 3. A dog. A cat. Normal, boring, beautiful domesticity. I never thought I'd want this, Ji-hoon admitted. A simple life. A family. It seemed impossible for someone like me. Nothing's impossible. Just hard. Martha kissed him. And we're good at hard. The move to the Keys happened in stages. First, securing a small house in Isla Morada, waterfront, 2 bedrooms, a little rough around the edges but with good bones. Then transferring Martha's credits to finish her degree online. Then, finally, opening Alice's Kitchen in a renovated space in Key Largo. The grand opening was small but perfect. Keisha came down from Miami, along with a few of Grandma Alice's church friends. No press. No fanfare. Just good food and people who mattered. Martha had crafted a menu that honored her grandmother while showcasing her own skills. Pen patted alongside fried chicken and waffles. Dairy ak Dijon next to shrimp and grits. Pickles that could wake the dead. Buttermilk biscuits that melted on the tongue. Ji-hoon worked the business side, inventory, accounting, customer service. He was surprisingly good at it, charming customers with his accent and his genuine enthusiasm for the food. "Your wife's cooking is incredible," one customer told him. Wife. They weren't married yet, but the word felt right. That night, after closing, Ji-hoon found Martha in the kitchen doing final cleanup. "Marry me," he said. She turned, spatula in hand. "What? Marry me? I don't have a ring, I'll get one, whatever you want, but I can't wait another day without asking." He crossed to her, took her hands. "You've given me everything. A reason to change. A reason to live. A future I never thought I deserved. Let me spend the rest of my life earning that gift. Marry me, Martha Jackson." Tears streamed down her face. "Yes. Obviously yes." He kissed her there in the kitchen that smelled like her grandmother's recipes and new beginnings, and Martha felt something settle in her chest. Peace. Actual peace. They married 3 months later. Small ceremony on the beach at sunset. Just close friends and Ji-hoon's therapist, who'd become a friend, and the owner of the restaurant next door who'd adopted them like family. Martha wore a simple white dress. Ji-hoon wore a linen suit. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises about choosing each other every day, about building good from ashes, about love that redeemed. "I was lost," Ji-hoon said, voice thick with emotion. "And you found me. I was broken and you helped me heal. I was dark and you were light. I'll spend every day of my life being worthy of you." "You already are worthy," Martha said. "Not because you changed for me, but because you chose to change. Because you fought for better. Because you loved me enough to become the person you were always meant to be." They kissed as husband and wife while the sun sank into the ocean, painting the sky impossible colors. And in that moment, everything they'd survived, the violence, the fear, the loss, felt worth it. Because it had led them here. To each other. To this life they were building together. To redemption. 2 years after the wedding, Martha stood in Alice's kitchen watching the sunset through the window and thought about miracles. Not the religious kind, though Grandma Alice would have called them that. But the everyday kind. The miracle of a business that thrived. Of a marriage that deepened instead of fracturing under pressure. Of a man who'd been a criminal becoming someone who volunteered at youth centers and sponsored scholarships for at-risk kids. The bakery had exceeded every expectation. What started as a small storefront had expanded, not into some chain but into something better, a community gathering place. People came for the food and stayed for the atmosphere. Martha had hired local staff, all second-chance employees, people with records, people rebuilding lives, people who needed what she and Ji-hoon had found. "You're doing that thing again," Keisha said, coming up beside her. "The sappy reflection thing. It's my bakery. I'll be sappy if I want." Martha bumped her friend's shoulder. "Thanks for coming down." "Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss this." Keisha surveyed the bakery, currently closed for a private event. "You really did it? The dream. All of it." "We did it," Martha corrected. "I couldn't have survived without you." "True. I'm very important." Keisha grinned. "So when are you going to tell everyone the news?" Martha's hand drifted to her stomach, barely showing under her dress. "Soon. Tonight probably. Once everyone's here." The private event was a celebration, Alice's kitchen's 2nd anniversary. Ji-hoon had insisted on throwing a party, inviting everyone who'd been part of their journey. FBI agents who'd become friends, former crew members who'd gone straight, community members who'd supported the business. Even Agent Rodriguez had RSVP'd yes. Ji-hoon came through from the back, carrying a tray of his latest creation, Korean-Haitian fusion appetizers that shouldn't work but absolutely did. He'd become genuinely passionate about cooking, taking classes, experimenting with recipes. "Taste?" he demanded, offering Martha a piece. She did. Flavor exploded on her tongue, spicy, sweet, complex. "Oh my God. What is this?" "Kimchi and griot egg roll." "Too much." "It's perfect. You're hired. I already work here. Then you get a raise." She kissed him. "I'm telling them tonight. About the baby." His face transformed, joy and fear and wonder all at once. "You sure?" "I'm sure. They're family. They should know." People started arriving at 6. The bakery filled with laughter and music and the smell of good food. Martha moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations on the anniversary, hearing stories about how the bakery had impacted lives. One young man, Carlos, who worked the morning shift, pulled her aside. "I just want to say thank you. For giving me a chance. I got out of prison 8 months ago and nobody would hire me. You didn't even blink." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Martha said. "I've seen what people can become when given the opportunity." She glanced at Ji-hoon across the room, talking animatedly with a group of local business owners. 2 years ago he'd been testifying against criminals. Now he was teaching entrepreneurship workshops for formerly incarcerated people, using his own story as a cautionary tale and a roadmap. Agent Rodriguez arrived fashionably late, out of her usual suit and in casual clothes that made her look 10 years younger. "Martha. Ji-hoon. Hell of a place you've built." "Thanks to you," Ji-hoon said. "Without witness protection, without the second chance you helped facilitate. You did the hard part. I just handled the paperwork." Rodriguez accepted a glass of wine. "How's the import business?" "Thriving. Completely legal. Almost boring." Ji-hoon smiled. "Exactly what I wanted." He'd launched a legitimate import company a year ago, bringing in specialty foods from Korea and other countries. It was a natural extension of the bakery, and it gave him purpose beyond just supporting Martha's dream. As the party wound down and the crowd thinned, Martha clinked her glass for attention. Ji-hoon materialized beside her, hand on her back, knowing what was coming. "I just wanted to thank everyone for being here. For supporting Alice's kitchen. For being part of our journey." She took a breath. "And I wanted to share some news. Ji-hoon and I are expecting a baby. Due in November." The room erupted. Cheers. Hugs. Happy tears. Keisha was crying openly and even Rodriguez looked misty-eyed. Later, after everyone had left and they were cleaning up, Ji-hoon pulled Martha into his arms. "Alice would have been thrilled," he said softly. "About the baby. About all of this. I know. I feel her sometimes, you know? When I'm cooking. Like she's standing over my shoulder, critiquing my technique." Martha smiled through tears. "I wish she could meet her great-grandchild. She will. In the stories we tell. In the recipes we pass down. In the values we teach." He placed a hand on her stomach. "This baby will know exactly who Alice Jackson was and what she meant to us." "What she meant to the world," Martha corrected. "She raised me. And I helped save you. And now we're building something good. That's her legacy." They stood in the empty bakery, surrounded by the evidence of their rebuilt lives, and Martha marveled at how far they'd come. From a wrong car on a rainy night to this. A marriage, a business, a baby on the way. The months of Martha's pregnancy passed in a blur of preparations. They moved to a bigger house, still in the Keys but with room for a nursery and a yard. Ji-hoon threw himself into daddy preparation mode, reading every book, taking every class, baby-proofing everything within a 5-mile radius. "You're going to be an amazing father," Martha told him one evening, watching him assemble a crib with the concentration he used to reserve for criminal operations. "What if I mess it up? What if I—" "You won't. Because you care this much. Because you've already broken every cycle you inherited." She settled beside him. "Our child is lucky to have you." Alice Ji-hoon Kang was born on a November morning, screaming her way into the world with her grandmother's determination and her father's intensity. Ji-hoon cried when he held her for the first time, actual sobs, and Martha fell in love with both of them all over again. "She's perfect," Ji-hoon whispered, staring at the tiny face. "How did we make something so perfect?" "The same way we built everything else. With love and stubbornness and refusing to give up." They brought Alice home to a house filled with flowers and well wishes. The bakery staff had organized a meal train. The community had showered them with gifts. Even Agent Rodriguez sent a card. "Congratulations on your greatest achievement. May she inherit her mother's courage and her father's redemption." The first few months were exhausting and wonderful and terrifying. Sleepless nights. Endless diapers. The constant fear that they were doing everything wrong. But also, Alice's first smile. Her tiny hands gripping their fingers. The way Ji-hoon would sit with her for hours, talking to her in Korean, telling her stories about her great-grandmother and the woman she was named for. Martha returned to work part-time, pumping in the bakery office, bringing Alice in a carrier when she couldn't find childcare. The customers loved it. A baby in a bakery felt right, somehow. Hopeful. Like the future in edible form. Ji-hoon's import business grew. He hired more formerly incarcerated people, building a workforce of second chances. Started a mentorship program for young Korean Americans at risk of gang involvement. The kids he might have recruited in his old life, now the kids he was saving. One afternoon, when Alice was 6 months old, Martha found Ji-hoon in their home office staring at an old photo. His parents and sister all smiling, all gone. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "That they'd be proud. Or I hope they would be." He touched the photo gently. "I've spent so long ashamed of what I became after they died. But maybe I've finally become something they could be proud of." They would be. I know they would. He turned to her, eyes bright. I'm happy, Martha. Actually, genuinely happy. I didn't think that was possible for someone like me. It was always possible. You just had to believe you deserved it. You made me believe. No. I just held up a mirror until you could see yourself clearly. They held each other while Alice napped in the next room and the ocean breeze drifted through open windows and life, messy, imperfect, beautiful life, surrounded them. Years passed. Alice grew, walking, talking, starting preschool with her mother's intelligence and her father's intensity. The bakery expanded again, this time opening a second location. Ji-hoon's import business became a model for ethical employment. They bought a small boat, spent weekends on the water, taught Alice to swim and fish and love the ocean. On what would have been Grandma Alice's 80th birthday, they held a memorial celebration at the original bakery. Served all her favorite dishes. Told stories. Laughed and cried and remembered. She changed everything, Martha told the assembled crowd, friends, family, community. She taught me that love means showing up. That family means fighting. That you build the life you want one choice at a time. And that sometimes, Ji-hoon added, holding their daughter, the wrong turn leads to exactly where you're supposed to be. Martha looked at her husband, this man who'd been a criminal, a killer, a lost soul, now a father, a businessman, a pillar of their community. Looked at their daughter, named for the woman who'd raised her with love and faith. Looked at the bakery filled with people whose lives they'd touched. This was redemption. Not perfect, not clean, but real. Built on truth and second chances and the stubborn belief that people could change. That love could heal. That wrong cars on rainy nights could lead to everything right. Martha stood in the kitchen of their home in Isla Mirada, watching through the window as Ji-hoon and Alice, now 6 years old, worked in the garden. He was teaching her to plant tomatoes, patiently showing her how to dig the holes, his Korean mixing with her chatter about school and friends and why vegetables were important. On the counter, her laptop displayed her latest manuscript. She'd finished her psychology degree years ago, worked as a counselor for 3 years, then started writing. Books about trauma and redemption. About second chances. The first one had been published last year to quiet success. The second was due out in fall. Her phone buzzed. A text from Keisha. Guess who just got engaged? Martha smiled and typed back. Finally? When's the wedding? Next summer. And you're the maid of honor, obviously. Better warn Ji-hoon he's best manning. Life had a way of coming full circle. Keisha had met her fiancé, a wonderful woman named Tasha, at Alice's first birthday party. Now they were planning a life together, same as Martha and Ji-hoon had done. Alice came running inside, dirt on her hands and joy on her face. Mama. Daddy says we can get a puppy if I'm responsible for 3 whole months. Does he now? Martha shot Ji-hoon a look through the window. He shrugged, unrepentant. Please? I'll feed it and walk it and everything. We'll talk about it, Martha said, which every parent knew meant probably yes. Alice hugged her and ran back outside, already planning puppy names at top volume. Ji-hoon came in, wiping his hands on a towel. Sorry? The puppy thing slipped out. It's fine. She's responsible enough. Martha pulled him close. We're going to have a dog. Among other things. He placed a hand on her stomach, still flat but not for long. They just found out about baby number 2. How are you feeling? Good. Tired. But good. She leaned into him. We're doing this again. We're doing this again, he agreed. Terrifying and perfect. Through the window, Alice was showing her imaginary puppy the garden, narrating an elaborate story about vegetable adventures. She had Martha's eyes and Ji-hoon's cheekbones and her great-grandmother's force of personality. She asked about my past yesterday, Ji-hoon said quietly. About why we moved to the Keys. About what I did before the import business. What did you tell her? A simplified version. That I made bad choices. That I hurt people. That I was lucky enough to meet her mother and she helped me choose better. He paused. That everyone deserves a chance to change, but change is hard work. How did she respond? She said, good thing you met Mama then. Because I like you how you are now. His voice cracked slightly. 6 years old and already wiser than I'll ever be. Martha kissed him. She gets that from both of us. That evening, after Alice was asleep and they sat on their dock watching the sunset, Ji-hoon said, I never thanked you properly. For that night. For getting in my car. For staying even when you should have run. I didn't stay because I'm brave. I stayed because I'm stubborn. Same thing. He pulled her against him. Do you ever regret it? Any of it? Martha thought about everything they'd been through. The danger, the fear, the loss, but also, the love, the growth, the family they'd built, the lives they'd changed. Not for a second, she said. That wrong car was the best mistake I ever made. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink into the gulf, the sky turning impossible shades of orange and pink. Somewhere inside, their daughter dreamed of puppies and vegetables. In Martha's womb, another life was just beginning. All around them, evidence of choices and chances and love that redeemed. Ji-hoon's empire was gone, dismantled by his own hand. But what he'd built in its place was so much better. A legitimate business, a family, a community that looked up to him not with fear but with respect. Martha's grandmother was gone, but her legacy lived on. In Alice's kitchen, in Martha's work, in the values they taught their daughter. They'd both lost so much. And found everything. What do you think happens next? Martha asked, though she already knew the answer. We keep building. Keep choosing better. Keep loving each other through whatever comes. Ji-hoon kissed the top of her head. Same as we always have. Sounds perfect to me. And it was. Not because their lives were without struggle, they would always carry their scars, always remember what they'd survived. But because they'd learned the most important lesson, that redemption wasn't a destination but a journey. That love required work. That second chances were sacred. That sometimes, on a rainy Miami night, you got into the wrong car and found exactly what you were looking for. Martha Jackson and Ji-hoon Kang, a psychology student and a Mafia boss who chose each other over everything else, sat on their dock in the Florida Keys and watched the stars come out. Together. Always together. Building their imperfect, beautiful, redeemed life one choice at a time. Love is not just a feeling. It's a choice we make every day. To see the best in each other. To fight for each other. To become better because of each other. That's the love that changes lives. That's the love that redeems.